backbone of Likud Anglos for a long time. Oh, we have and I hope his parents who are here are shipping nachas and your son. And so thanks for coming. I don't know what really you could say about a crowd that comes out in the rain for a Chayim Bodedim, but I salute you all. I think you all deserve a round of applause. On to the Nose. I just want to say a little bit about Likud Anglos. We're taught all of our lives that when we die, our mitzvot, our good deeds, and our averot, our bad deeds, are going to be weighed. I've always believed that when a man dies and he stands before God, there's really one essential question that is asked of him. Whatever he did in his life, however many times he davened with a minyan, or he did things, afi halacha, there's really one question that is asked of him, and that's, where were you? And I mean by that, when evil acts were being committed, where were you? When your brothers were suffering, where were you? When a courageous but unpopular stand was needed, where were you? When Matityahu called for a revolt against an evil empire, where were you? And I think that question is asked in every generation. So when Jabotinsky called on Jews to leave Europe, and the rest of the Zionist leadership said, oh, he's a crazy extremist, don't listen to him, everything's going to be all right. Where were you then? And when those Jews were being murdered, where were you? Where were we? And when Menachem Begin called for a revolt against another evil empire, well, they weren't all evil, but at the time they were acting with evil intent. Where were we? And when the Arabs set upon Israel over and over again, where were you? When the PLO was given legitimacy, money, weapons to kill Jews, where were you? And when 8,000 Jews were expelled from their homes for a diplomatic talking point that no one even cares to listen to, where were you? And soon the question is going to be, when a Palestinian state was created, the tool with which they will kill thousands of Jews, where were you? Now I know that this is not a normal crowd. Each of you came to Israel, it was a positive choice. It wasn't something that you just could sit back on your couches and do. You had to leave everything behind. And then on top of that, many of you came and you served in the IDF without any support. You were lone soldiers. But God demands that you do more than that. He demands that you not stand by the blood of your brother. You have a civic responsibility. And that's something that we all were taught growing up in our respective countries, and that's something that makes each of us special. But that duty, you carry that duty all of your life. So when we organize these political events, it's not just for your entertainment. It's so that we can influence the members of Knesset that you're going to be interacting with. And when we tell you to register as a Likud member, as Ariel just did, it's not because we get a pat on the back from the Prime Minister for every 100 we bring in. It's because that's how you have a voice in our particular political system, and it's because we're building a bloc of people who care about the direction of this country and who don't take sablanut as an excuse not to do anything. And perhaps most importantly, when we tell you to vote on election day, or primary day, or in the Central Committee elections, which are coming up in a month, it's not because waiting in line at the voting booth is a pleasurable experience. It's because in a democracy, that's how your voice is heard. And these are the things that members of Knesset take into account when they're doing their own din v'cheshbon about where they're going to go, what things they're going to support. So for example, when Gideon Sa'ar, who's the education minister, he came out against the Palestinian state, something that many Likud members have done, but not everyone. It was kind of controversial. He broke with the chairman of our party, he broke with the prime minister. And he needs to know, when he's doing his calculations, he needs to know that you guys are behind him, that you're going to come out on election day, that you're going to be writing letters, that you're going to be involved in the political process. Another Likud MK, Ophir Akunis, introduced a law that will stop foreign governments from manipulating our political system by donating tons and tons of money to NGOs. He's been called out like a fascist for it. There are all these references by Kadima members to 1984. And he needs to know that you're behind him if he's going to do things like that. And another Likud MK, Yariv Levin, he's introduced a law to make Supreme Court nominees come before the Knesset, something that happens in every other democracy. and he's been called anti-democratic. He needs to know that you're behind him. And when Moshe Ya'alon came out against the disengagement as IDF chief of staff, very controversial, and he has been since then a kind of perhaps sometimes the lone voice of a rational security policy for the last few years. He needs to know that you're behind him. And we've got a lot of problems in the country. And some of these we're fixing, we're working on them. Some of them we will get to. We have a political system that puts all the power in the hands of parties, but then when you try and register for one, you have no idea if it went through. You don't hear from them. I know many people in this room, members of Likud that we called, and they said, wow, this is the first time that somebody from Likud has contacted me. And that's amazing to me. I would never think that that would happen in America. And we've got an Aliyah and Klita system that half the time really, it feels like it's spitting out the Olim. People who leave everything behind to come here, they feel like they're getting slapped in the face. Now, I believe that we can fix these problems. They're not insurmountable. We've got energy, we've got our ideas, and you know what? For the last year, since we relaunched Likud Anglos, at the time we had started without a single person on our mailing list, and now we're up to 1,500. And 500 of them are Likud members. And believe me that 500 may sound small, but when you talk to a member of Knesset, that's something that they take into account. They say, whoa, 500 members. Things start changing when you talk to them. All of a sudden they treat you a little bit better. Now we know that there are 3,000 Anglos on the Likud lists. We're going to get in touch with all of them. And after that, we're going to get in touch with all the other Olim who share our Zionist values. And after that, we're going to talk to Israelis. And all the while, we're going to be signing up new people. So we're going to fix things. You don't have to doubt that. The question is, where will you be? Will you be standing with us? And I hope you will. I'm not going to take questions yet. Now I'd like to welcome to speak a representative of the Lone Soldier Center. You know? And after that, we're going to do Hannukah. And then Sarah.
I just came from the induction center in Tel Aviv, where 81 soldiers from several different countries came to join in our collective dream of building and defending Israel.